All right, guys. But what I want to talk about today is interpreting what health professionals or medical professionals can often say to us, or the information that we can receive on the other, and how we experience that. Especially when we're someone who is coming back from an injury or is struggling with a health concern. It can be very damning. It can be very final when you read certain words, when you hear certain statements. And as a coach for the best part of almost 20 years now, I've been a teacher, I've been a coach, been working with multiple different age groups, men, women, young, old, teaching in schools, working in colleges, being a coach in multiple different gyms, working with hundreds, if not thousands of people now in my career. I've always respected the fact that I have a responsibility, I have a position of power that, what I say, goes a long way sometimes. And if and I can't abuse that power. But what I often see is people in documentation, in medical forms, and I've experienced this multiple times. And obviously quite recently, this is why obviously today's podcast is coming at you today. But it's because some of the words that people can read about themselves, some of the reviews, the analysis, the diagnosis, when you aren't educated enough on, and you don't have that experience, it can be very final. And if you don't have the appropriate support network around you, it can be life-changing. We've had to look through forms where men and women have been told that they should never run again, that the injury that they've sustained is, career-ending, in terms of their running career as such, or their training career. They've been told that potentially they might need a wheelchair later on in life, that they may need, continuous drugs and injections and all these other procedures, as they move forward in life. And if you've ever been on the other end of that type of information, it can be your mind can be a whirlwind. You can be thinking, really, is this me? Is this my life now? What I want to get across today is, guys, there's 3 key things that you can be doing. And I'm going to share these over the course of this podcast, but I really want you to stick around and hear these out, because I want you to take power back. When you are, being a highly active person, you are going to experience injury and setback over your lifetime. You're going to experience potential health concerns because, the percentages of us who pick up, health issues, etc. along the way, it is part of life. You are going to sit down in front of a medical professional at some point. You're going to get an analysis and a diagnosis. You're going to get review. You're going to have to work through. And it's going to say things that are going to make you feel very uncomfortable. They're going to be to the letter, to the point, and there's going to be some truth behind them. And I want to explore this today. But what I really want to help guys is that fact is that words do matter, and we have to read between the lines sometimes, and we have to take control of these situations. And again, these 3 things that we're going to talk about later in this podcast today, we're going to be breaking this down. But speaking from the medical for medical professionals, they have a job to do. They have a job to do in terms of making sure that you fully understand the situation at hand. You need to understand the physiological impacts and implications and complications around the injury, the health concern you have. That will always need to be in place. The initial analysis, the diagnosis, then the initial treatment. But always remember, that is only the first stages of your rehabilitation. Unless you're working with a multidisciplinary team, whether you are going to get that initial phase and then you're moved into the next stages of your rehab, whether it's psychological, physiological, looking at your blood and hormonal health, looking at your strength and conditioning, looking at your psychology, and your nutrition. There's so many elements to your rehabilitation coming back from an injury that aren't ever really discussed appropriately. You'll just get a lot of the time when you're working with those in that initial phase, it's just factual. It's just to the point, based off obviously initial blood work, initial scans, initial diagnosis. That's always going to be necessary. But what I need you to understand, guys, is this is just the first rung of the ladder. Whatever they're saying, they're basing it off the facts of they don't know what the future holds for you. And this is where you can take control of the situation. And this is where we lead to number 1, education. Educate yourself, okay? Whatever you receive in these situations, the diagnosis, the feedback, the analysis, go and find a team of people that are helping others with these similar concerns. Go and educate yourself. We do have an abundance of information and education around ourselves. Go and do your due diligence. Go and find out exactly what this situation looks like. Are there other success cases, stories? There will be. In this day and age, there's always scenarios where people are working things out, working their way through these situations. But what I want you to understand is you have the power to educate yourself. Do not take these words on face value. I unfortunately have worked with people in the past who have literally just said, yeah, I'm done. I think I'm just going to leave it. I can't do that anymore. I'm just not going to do it. And I've got friends and family who no longer skate, run, ski, climb, because they've taken those words to heart almost, and they haven't then had the network around them to push them forwards and go, hey, let's start exploring this. Why have you considered that? Let's get you into this environment or get in front of this person. And that could come from you to start with. But that does bring us nicely onto the second point, which is surround yourself with the right people. Build your own network is absolutely critical. These first two things are everything. Educate yourself and surround yourself with the right team, the right people. Like, get in front of the right professionals that are all singing from the same hymn sheet, that want to see the best for you. And it's going to be multifactorial. In the US, you'll walk into a medical center, you're going to be walking into multiple different rooms under the same roof, and you're going to be getting a service that is going to be designed around all aspects of your health. Looking at your nutrition, looking at your strength and conditioning, looking at your scans, looking at your kind of the deeper level of physiological issues you're dealing with. There's the psychology. There's so many. The lifestyle integration, the occupational kind of therapy. There's so many things here, guys, that you could be understanding more about in terms of your situation. And obviously, working as an MDT here at SFE, I've worked in multiple different multidisciplinary teams with multiple different insurance cases, should I say, over the years, where you get to see how quickly you can see someone turn their horrible position around. They've been in car accidents. They've had shattered their bones in multiple different places, being told that they're never to probably run again. They're never able to probably ski again or climb again or lift again. It's not the case. We've got case study after case study of people who are now got back to where they want to be because they've done this. They've gone out and educated themselves, find the right people, they surround themselves with the right people, and then they're taking action. They've started to do the things they need to do to then start moving the wheel forward. And this is the point. A lot of the information you're receiving is likely based off old school systems where there's a lot of the medical pressures in place don't have those networks, but that they can then refer out to. In an ideal world, they're referring out to a team beneath them, which is made up of psychologists and strength and conditioning coach and a sports coach and a dietitian. Where you can kind of go into that environment and you can start working with those individuals and you can get yourself back. But most of us had to quarterback that ourselves. And at SFE, for the last 15 years, that's been my mission since breaking my leg twice, since obviously being a coach and a teacher, but then also having broken my leg and having to do exactly this. I was told I probably wouldn't skate again. I probably told I wasn't going to run again, and that maybe I'll have a limp for the rest of my life in some form. And then I broke my leg again 2-3 years later, and I had to face that same future, but I refused to let it happen. And this brings me on to the third point, guys, which is use this information as fuel. Use it as motivation. You're told this type of, you're given this diagnosis, you're given this information. Do not take it lying down. Not to sound corny, but don't. Literally use it. Fuck them. Literally, who cares? Use that every single day and use it as motivation to go, no, I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I'm going to work myself back. And I've done that. The last decade of my life, training, get myself back to being able to run half marathons, ultra marathons, being able to lift my own body weight and a half for fun, being able to run and play with my boys, because I was given that diagnosis. I was given this type of feedback, and it still fuels my fire, guys. It literally fuels my fire as a coach, yet alone my own personal fitness. So educate yourself. Surround yourself with a network of support that are people who are going to lift you up and push you into the right directions and get you working on those areas that maybe you weren't aware of. They're going to keep you moving in the right direction. And then, again, find that motivation. Find that why. And for those of you who have had these setbacks, it's clear as day. I never want to be this broken again. I'm fed up with being injured. I'm fed up with kind of having these constant setbacks. What do you need to do? I just want to bring this across, guys, because it's not fair. Because a lot of people who aren't in these environments, who aren't aware that they have these options around them, who aren't aware of companies like us, they will fall into these kind of lifestyles where they no longer do what they want to do, and it's not fair because people have got decades and decades and decades ahead of them where they could be proactively working on their own health. And this is a really important point, guys, is a lot of the time the diagnosis analysis that you're getting back is based off potentially working with Joe Blogs, who probably has got no like training background, who doesn't have that internal kind of motivation where they're not gonna lie down. They're given the easy options almost, the drugs, the wheelchairs, which is crazy to say, I know, but they are the kind of the reality that a lot of people will face if you don't take action. But we have the power to take action. You can find that educate yourself. You can find that network around you. You can start working on your strength and conditioning. You can start working on that return to run program. That's going to slowly build up that tolerance in your joints and your muscle tissues. It's going to get you back to where you want to be. But it does take that inner drive. The thing that is going to pull you forward relentlessly is that fuel. And that's why number 3 is that fuel, because the why. And it has to become from a place of frustration, pain, whatever it needs to be. But I certainly lean into that as a coach. I'm like, are you fed up? Are you done with this? Do you want to move forwards? Then okay, let's start making moves. Sometimes those moves are small and we're integrating little behaviors into your lifestyle. We're starting to focus on different areas that potentially you've never been held accountable to, when maybe we're holding you right back because you've just been trying to do too much too soon because you're so frustrated that you're just trying to flog it. Most likely you're there lost and pretty insecure. You're not sure whether you will or you won't. I'm telling you, blown out knee meniscus, torn Achilles, busted knees, blown out backs, L4, L5s, broken feet, shattered feet. There's so many different variations that you can work yourself back from, and it's all doable. But again, it's just following these principles. Got to educate yourself, get yourself in front of the right people, surround yourself with the right network, and then have that inner drive to go, no, I won't take this. I will get better. I will do better. But it's going to take these behavioural changes that potentially aren't available to you within the medical environment that you're in right now. This is why we step out. You've got to step outside of that and find what is going to give you that avenue. Guys, as always, if you find yourself in this place where you are feeling hopeless, feeling struggling with this, even in the future, you have the power to flip the narrative on this. See those words on that paper, on that screen for what they are. That is a version of you that you have no interest in being. But what is it going to take for you not to allow these things to take place? For that muscle atrophy, for that weakness, for age to take place? What are you going to do to combat that? Love to hear from you guys, as always. And if anyone have any questions, explore this in a bit more detail, feel free to get in touch. Speak soon.